Connect your garden hoses. It's time for an hour of cultivated fun. Let's join Sassy Susan as she welcomes Ciscoe Morris.
Ciscoe kid was a friend of mine.
And good morning, Ciscoe. How are you today?
Hey, hi, Sassy. Hey, I am just great.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for those Seahawks.
I know. They're going to play this afternoon, and being a Buffalo girl, the Bills are playing this morning at 10, so, I know what my husband's going to be doing most of the day after he takes Thor for a walk. But it was cold here this morning. It was 27 degrees.
Wow, that's cold.
I had no idea it was supposed to get that cold last night. We have a fountain, a ceramic fountain, that if it gets below freezing, we have to turn a light on so it doesn't crack. And we looked at, it was 33 degrees at 10 o'clock and it was clear, and we're going, okay, this isn't good. We better turn on the light. But yeah, 27. When I was driving here today, the mountains were beautiful and the geese were flying around going, what happened? It's cold. So,
yeah, I threw a whole bunch of my more tender plants in pots. I stick them out because they can take to about freezing, but I'm really happy I threw those in my garage. The weather report said 35, but where I live in Seattle, it gets a lot colder than the weather report. So I'm happy those guys are in the garage hanging in there together,
Yeah. So for all of you listeners out there, right now it's 3 minutes past 9, and right now it's 31 degrees in downtown Sequim, and the wind is just out of the southwest at 2 to 3. And we are hosting Gardening with Ciscoe. We are so pleased and honored to have Ciscoe Morris as our personal guest on the radio every Saturday from 9 to 10. So what would you always have an intro topic. What would you like to enlighten people about this week?
Well, I think I was going to mention watch out for the cold, because like I have a bird bath, a glass bird bath out
Ooh.
there.
Yeah.
And I just, and I forgot to bring it in last night. I haven't gone to look yet, but if it only has a sheet of ice on the top, that then the birds do a little ice skating, but it doesn't break the bird bath, But even cement bird baths can break if they freeze solid. So, and bring in any plants. If you've got plants in pots, either, put something around that pot or move them into the garage when it gets this cold, because that can be kind of tough, to say the least. So.
Yeah, I know. I got some beautiful azalea plants last week, and when I saw that it was so cold, I brought them in under the cover of our deck. So hopefully they'll make it. So next to the house, they should be okay.
Walls actually absorb whatever warmth there is during the day, even if it's really cold, and they give it off at night. So it really can help to move plants against the wall like that.
Yeah. Well, I know that we've been having some questions in the past few weeks about getting Christmas cactus to bloom. So is that something that we're going to talk about today?
Sure. And, Christmas cactus, the real trick to getting them to bloom is to give them a dry period. And generally I do it in November. So in November I barely water them at all, and I keep them in a cooler back room. And then you just let them sit in front of a bright window, but no direct sunlight on them if you can help it. And you don't move them until the buds form. Once the buds form, very carefully you can bring them into a room where everybody will be able to enjoy them and everything. Sometimes, if the temperature's too warm and you move them in, I've had all the buds fall off. Talk about frustrating. Oh la la. But that rarely happens. Once the buds are formed and are just starting to open, that's when I move them. And then you can give them regular water. And when they're done blooming, you want to give them about a month of watering very slightly. Just when the pot really feels light, give them some more water. And they like that little rest before and after blooming.
Well,
And November is a really important time to let them get cool and not too much water, because then they'll set their buds right for the holiday.
now, you were saying to gradually move them in. Do you mean move them in the house for a few hours and then put them back in the garage? Or what do you mean by gradually?
Well, actually, no. In all truth, they can't go down much more than about 45 degrees.
Okay.
But and even sometimes I'll leave them in my back room. It's probably 60 degrees in here, and so what I do is once I probably misspoke a little, because once they've got their buds and they're starting to open, then I'll move it into the other room, and it's hope for the best.
Okay, and then you can just leave it
Yeah.
in the house so that you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. And
okay.
I don't put those in the garage. Just in a back room doesn't get down much lower than 60.
You know, I bet your house is real interesting with all the plants all over.
Oh yeah. Well, when Mary and I first got married, there were so many house plants in my apartment that I had that you had to take a malaria pill to walk in the front door. But we've had a few purges since then, shall we say.
Well, one of the more popular things, of course, listening to you is popular, but one of the really popular things from all the listeners is your stumper question. Share your stumper
right.
question.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite stumper questions, and I can't wait to hear what people call in and guess. But which is typically a beneficial bug? One that moves fast or one that moves slowly? So is it that fast bug you see whipping around, or is it that one that's moving very slowly in the garden that is going to be a beneficial insect
Okay.
for various reasons? And
So-
people can say why they think
Yeah.
why the fast or slow one would be good.
So kind of like comparing the hare and the turtle. The fast
That's
bug is the hare,
exactly it.
and the turtle moves really slow. So that's the question. That's the stumper question. Which is a typically good bug? One that moves fast or moves slow? And tell us why. Now, how are you going to tell us? Well, you're going to call 360-681-0000, and Linda will answer the phone and write down your results, or I think you can send it to office@ksqmfm.com for those people that might be listening on the internet. So that's the question. Which is the best, a fast or a slow bug? All right, so we had some questions left over from last week. So as I mentioned at the end of the show last week, they get first priority because they listened, hopefully, and didn't hear their questions. So let's do those first. Okay, this is someone, Stephanie. She and her family recently purchased property with lots of gardens and fruit trees. Sounds like the Garden of Eden. We have 5 apple trees, a plum tree, a fig tree, and a nut tree. The fruit was heavily invaded by bugs, and the plum didn't do anything. I would like to maximize the harvest this year and need some help. Would you be able to provide your recommendation on care and maintenance, sprays, etc.? So Stephanie wants to get ready for a big harvest this year. So what can we share with her? I see that she just has 1 plum, 1 fig. So is that going to be okay, or should she have another one?
Well, a fig tree only need 1.
Oh, okay, good.
So But the fig has to be in the best sunshine you could possibly give it. That seems to be the key for fig trees here. And, you want to get one that tends to do well here, so I'm just going to trust that she, chose one that ripens fruit well here, like brown turkey or one of those. But her plum, it depends. If she's got an Italian plum, she only needs one.
Okay.
But if she's got a green gauge plum or one of the other type plums, she's probably going to have a cross-pollinator, Asian plum. All these need cross-pollinators, so if she knows what she's got, then she could go on the web, go to Rain Tree Nursery, and they've got a gigantic catalog online. You can go and pick another plum that will cross-pollinate with yours. So that's really important.
Well,
the
now,
other thing is...
the thing is, she recently purchased this property. She didn't buy the trees.
Oh.
So this is going to be a challenge.
Because it's going to be a challenge.
Unless there's a label on it, she doesn't know what kind of tree it is.
Yeah, and that could be really hard to find
Yeah,
out what
yeah.
kind you've got.
Yeah.
So she might, if that tree doesn't produce again this year, maybe you might want to replace that, get an Italian plum, or get two plums that cross-pollinate, because otherwise it may never produce. And finding out what it is if it doesn't produce any fruit is almost impossible.
Yeah.
So that'd be one thing. And then, she talked about she got a lot of bugs on there. It's an interesting thing, but in the spring, if you look at your fruit tree, the end of the branches, if you see a whole bunch of little black dots on the end of the branches, those are aphid eggs.
Ooh.
Aphids are really interesting insects. They don't have to mate or anything. The female produces female babies. She's one of the only insects on Earth that has live young, and so she could be pumping out live young like crazy all summer. But in late summer, she produces male and female live young. Those mate, and then those female lay eggs on the branches, and those are the ones that hatch out as females in the spring, and the whole thing starts again. So if you see a whole bunch of black dots on the end of the branches, what you could do is in early February, you can do what they call dormant spray. And you usually it's an oil, and you can spray, and if you spray those eggs, they'll probably never, ever hatch, and you've taken care of the problem. And you'll probably have to do 2 sprays, one in early February and probably 2 weeks later. So look for that, and keep an eye on it. Otherwise, if you don't see those, just keep a close eye on your plants, and if all of a sudden you see aphids somehow get on there, blast it with a powerful spray of water. A lot of times that's all it takes to dislodge enough of the aphids so you don't get serious problems.
What was the name of the thing that you said to spray on the branches? What was the name of that?
Well, we call it dormant spray.
Oh,
so
dormant.
You spray it before and there's also delayed dormant, and that's you just wait a little longer. And I would consider this a delayed dormant because you're spraying right as the buds might be opening up a little bit, but it's all right. And these are oil sprays. They're Superior, Supreme. I think it's called Sun Spray. So these are actually made out of petroleum, believe it or not, but they're really highly refined, and they don't even hurt birds or anything. They break down really fast. You wouldn't want to spray a bird, point blank or something, but if a bird flies into the tree right after you spray, it's not going to hurt it, and that will basically suffocates the eggs. Coats them and suffocates them, and it works pretty darn good. And it's a pretty environmentally friendly spray, because what you don't want to do is be spraying something, like diazinon or something, one of these pretty powerful chemical sprays after the aphids come out. That's almost never really required these days. We're finding out that sometimes really just a spray of water is enough to knock the bugs off. If you knock an aphid off a plant with a powerful spray of water, it's had it. That squishes the little
That's
guy
the end of it, huh?
soft body. That's it. Yep. Goodbye, Charlie.
Remember when those commercials were on TV with Charlie the tuna? Now we're showing our age, Ciscoe.
Oh yeah, we are.
Well, we have a call-in question that I want to play. This is from Richard, so let's hear what Richard's question is.
Well, good morning to you, Ciscoe. This is Richard the Crazy Gardener, and I live over on Hogbeck. I have had a whole population of rats that moved into my compost pile way too close to my garden, and they were dining all fall, so I've been trapping rats. And I've trapped a lot of rats. But I have a couple, 3 that are really smart, and they know my traps. And I've tried everything. I've tried every bait I can think of in those traps, from peanut butter to chocolate to flour to grain, apples, on and on and on. And those guys are smart. So I need help trapping those rats. Thank you.
Okay, wow. It sounds like he's got a regular smorgasbord for his rats.
Well, I don't know if I told this story on this show, but Mary and I, we donate tours of our garden to help good causes. So, I'll give a tour to support some kind of program to help kids or something, and then what they do is they auction off the tour at a big auction. They'll auction off a tour to our garden, and then they get the money, and I get the fun of leading people through the garden. And whenever you come on a tour to my garden, you always start with a glass of wine in your hand, because that way you like my stories better,
Oh, I can see there'd be quite a competition to get a ticket to tour your garden.
It's
Yeah,
a lot of fun, and we've done quite a number of them. And usually what happens at the end, we sit around on our patio table under the giant wisteria, and I have a big arbor that goes over it, and we sit and I answer garden questions, and we talk and just have a good time. And so an ex-mayor of Seattle was at one of mine, and we're sitting on the patio, enjoying a glass of wine, talking, and I see this big rat start coming across the arbor right above us. And I'm like, I tried to tell a really good story quick so nobody looked, and of course one woman screamed and everybody. But Charles Royer, the ex-mayor, he told me, he said, don't feel bad at all about having a rat in your garden. He said Seattle, when he was the mayor, was the second worst city in the United States for rats.
Oh.
So we got them. We're, because we're port, we don't get cold. It's got all the conditions. I guess the sewers weren't made the best they could have been. So anyway, I battled these things over the years, and they knocked down the old farmhouse in our neighborhood. It used to be an ancient farmhouse. They knocked it down to build new houses. Everybody had rats after that. That house must have been full of them.
Uh-huh.
So, and I know just what this guy means, because I set up rat traps, the snapping kind.
Uh-huh.
And I get them, and then they figure it out. And once they figure it out, they actually fire the trap and then eat the peanut butter in a nice, relaxed fashion, And here's the problem. I haven't figured out a way out with these guys. I have not figured out a way to do it. I got 2 dogs, but they can't get to where the rats go very easy.
Yeah.
And but I'll tell you what sometimes works: a really good cat.
Oh.
When I directed the grounds care at Seattle University, one of the women that worked with me, she went to work for a nursery nearby, and she called me up. She goes, "Something's eating my plants every night in this nursery, you know." And I said, "It's rats. Look around, see if you see any dropping." She did. I told her, "Get 2 cats.
Uh-huh.
Try and find the best ones you can. You know, just go, you know, ask friends. You got a cat that really eats rats. That who'd you get it from or something? You know." So she got 2 cats.
Yeah.
It took care of the problem so fast. The problem is you never know if a cat's going to be any good or not.
Yeah.
You know, some cats are the dud of history. They go, "I'm not going to fight with a big fat rat,"
Yeah.
you know. But if you can get a good cat, boy, and leave it out at night, you got a really good chance of taking care of that problem. It'll take care of the moles. It'll take care of the coyotes, I swear. But
okay,
no,
so
but
that's...
I don't have any. I don't have a good answer for how to outwit them. I wait a while, let the rats get complacent, and then I set them up again. What was I going to say now? I forgot what I was about to say, but that can help to wait a while before you put it back out there, you know. But I always put gauze on the traps so that it's really stuck on there good. And I even I bend the triggers, make them more hair trigger. Oh, it's so scary putting those out there.
Yeah.
But you know, there's no easy way to get rid of those, and I would never have an exterminator come. I would never use bait because I have dogs. I don't want them to catch a rat that ate bait. You know, so
No easy answer, but he's listening right now because he just sent in a reply about fast bugs versus slow bugs, and he said fast bugs because they're fast. So that's what his vote is for the Stumper question. Then we have another person that called in, Ruth. She sent an email in. She says, "Morning, I'd say that fast bugs are better than slow bugs because slugs are slow, and as far as I'm concerned, slugs are bad. Bad.
Well, I'm with her.
Love your show." So that's from Ruth. So if you have if you'd like to give us your input of Ciscoe Stumper question is, which is typically a good bug, one that moves fast or one that moves slowly? So what you can do is call 360-681-0000 or send an email to office@ksqmfm.com. Okay, we have a couple of questions about lawns. Now, these were also from last week. This is from, I don't have a name with it. I have a quick question for you. Last fall, I had my lawn removed and some topsoil added and sod laid in its place. I have been paying a lawn service to come and help maintain it, and it is filled in nice. My question is, the lawn service tried to pull a core and said the soil was way too hard, and I am wondering what I can do to soften it to allow for better growth for the future. So they put sod on top of soil that wasn't very hard. Yeah.
That happens way too often, you know, and you know, the company that came in and put that sod down, you know, they really should have told that person, you know, this is not appropriate soil. It's going to be really difficult, because even though if you water it enough, you could keep lawn green on clay soil, but it's really difficult and tricky, and you can get in a lot of problems. So it would have been better if they'd have brought in like 8 inches of topsoil and put that down over the surface, but they didn't. So, and,
well,
you know,
now they did lay some topsoil, but he didn't say how much topsoil.
Yeah, so it's, you know, and this is what happens. They bring in 2 inches of topsoil and put the sod on. And so, when you put soil down, 2 inches of soil, it's going to shrink down to about a half inch of soil.
Oh, really?
And that's how deep your roots are going to be.
Huh.
So that's why you got to water all the time. So, but anyway, it's done now, and you're going to do your best to keep it in good shape. What I would do would be top dress. So you could do this, and you could aerate. I mean, maybe the aerator won't even go through that soil, but you could try that machine that pulls plugs out of the soil. And after you do that, what I would do is top dress with compost. So you want to buy the best compost you could find. You know, you might talk to the place that sells like Pacific Topsoil, any of those companies, and ask them, I want your premium compost. And you'll put that down. Now, I mow my lawn when it's 3 inches tall to 2 inches tall. And I never pick up the clippings or anything. And if you do that and you grow it that tall, you could put a half inch of compost. You could do that 4 times during the year if you want. Just, you know, get a spreader and spread it out 4 inches deep. Or you could put it out there and then just rake it out to about, a half inch deep of compost. You could do that 4 times during the year. It's not a panacea, but it'll help over time. Your lawn will slowly come up, and you'll get more rooting. And when you put compost down like that, it's full of microorganisms, and it's got a lot of good fungus and all kinds of things in it that'll help fight disease too. So it's a really good thing to do. So that's what I'd probably do in his case.
Okay. So that will help him. Now, the next question is also a soil question from last week. This one's from Steve. And he said, I was thinking of aerating my lawn. You talked about that for the previous question. And adding manure, but I understand that it is hot and can damage grass. Any ideas of what I can do to eventually soften my soil? I guess he's saying that manure is hot.
Yeah, I think manure would be hard to use. I mean, you could buy those bags of it. Some of those bags of manure you buy are defanged. So
they're what?
By that, I mean, well, I call it defanged because what they do is they compost it down to the point where there's no more odor in it.
Oh, okay.
And so, but there's no nutrition in it either.
Oh, okay.
You'd be better off using compost.
Yeah.
And I actually used to go and buy washed cow manure. So the farmer, what he does, he gets out there with his giant hose in the barn and blows all the manure over these grates, and then all the liquids drop out, and they use that to fertilize the fields. And you know, if you drive into Snohomish certain times a year, and it smells like essence of Iowa out there.
And doesn't it smell
That's
wonderful?
what they're doing.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, it does, though. Yeah. So, but it can be too much of a good thing because so then the washed cow manure, the stuff that doesn't go through the grate, they used to sell that. It's harder to get now because of diseases and things that have been found in the manure. But I used to buy that, and then I'd stick it on my perennial gardens. But boy, I'll tell you, if sometimes that stuff, talk about essence of Iowa. My neighbors would be like walking by home, their nose glaring at my window. I'd hide in the back room. So once it rains, the odor goes away, you know. But oh la la, that used to be pretty bad.
Okay,
I
well,
don't go that route anymore.
hopefully we've helped these two people with their lawns. It is kind of a challenge. Well, right now it's 29 minutes to 10, which means it's time for the plant of the week. What are we going to have for the plant of the week?
This is the best plant. Now, I just showed on my website, I got a picture of one, But there's a whole lot of other of this tree that you can get. So this is Hamamelis intermedia Jelena, but people will know it as witch hazel. So there are witch hazel trees. They're deciduous trees, and there's a whole lot of dwarf ones. And so these deciduous trees you can buy, and right now, at this time of winter, all of a sudden, all the bare branches are covered with these really brightly colored, spidery-looking flowers that they're pretty good size, and so they just come to color right in the middle of winter, and hummingbirds absolutely love them. So they add a lot of color to your winter garden, and they're feeding your hummingbirds. Now, the only thing about witch hazel, if it gets really, really cold, the flowers close up. They wait to open back up till it warms up a little bit. So the hummingbirds can't totally rely on them in the coldest weather. But hopefully you have others of the plants I've been showing that stay open even in the coldest weather. But I see hummingbirds go to my witch hazels all the time in the winter. On a day like today, they'll be all over them. So they're really neat.
Yeah, well, I just pulled up on my phone your website, CISCOE.com, for all you listeners out there, and you can see a picture of this plant that he's talking about, this witch hazel.
And this is one that I espaliate against the fence, but normally they have a really pretty vase shape if you got room for them out in your garden. And so the one Jelena has orange flowers, and it only gets about 8 to 12 feet tall and about 8 feet wide. And but there's Diane with red. Arnold's Promise has yellow. So there's a lot of really good ones, and the flowers are fragrant too. So pretty cool.
Okay, well, so that's the plant of the week. Right now it's 27 minutes to 10. You're tuned to KSQM 91.5, and this is Gardening with Ciscoe. Let me see. This person sent in and she has a wonderful name. Her name is Sue. That's a wonderful name. And she wants to know, how early can she plant sweet peas?
Okay. Sweet peas are just like basically the same rules that when we plant our snap peas or, whatever kind of peas we plant, we like to do it early. Now, the old rule used to be plant them on President's Day. But I have planted my sweet peas and peas on President's Day, and right after they came up, we got a foot of snow. That's not good for them at all, So I'd say, but as soon as, if it looks like we're having a warm spring and there's no threat of snow in, or real cold weather coming, I'd say as close to President's Day as you can do it, get them in the ground, and you'll have them blooming in, probably late May to early June.
Okay. All right. So she can get those in the ground around President's Day.
Oh, one little tip I'll give her too is that you can put the peas, the little peas you're going to plant, in moist paper towel, and then every day take a look, keep them moist, and keep it in a warm spot like in your kitchen or something, so you don't forget. Every day look, and when they start to sprout, plant them then, and they do a lot better.
Give them a little bit of a head start.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Well, back someone Spanky called from Burien called in about the rat question. He says, we've had great success baiting our electronic rat zapper with Ritz crackers. Works great. So
those electronic rat zappers are something else. They have batteries in them, and we had some rats got into our basement once, and so we use those. But and they do work. They electrocute the rat when they go in there, and you gotta to use them right, you got to put those Ritz crackers in a couple of days without turning them on.
Oh.
So first put some Ritz crackers outside, and then, they'll eat those, and then stick some inside, they'll go and go. This is safe. And then I'll tell you one thing. When I bought them, it said the humane way to kill rats, and I thought, is this really that humane? I don't know. But the rat has a really surprised look on its face.
Yeah.
I can tell you that much right now. So.
Okay, so
Okay, that's a good suggestion.
Okay, so this is from James, and James is a gardening enthusiast, and his grandmother passed away recently. Condolences to you, James. He says, I lived with her through my college years until she passed. We spent a great deal of time in the garden together, and many of the plants have special meaning to me. But now that his grandmother has died, my uncles have chosen to sell the house sooner than I had hoped, and it's going on the market at the end of January. I want to transplant these plants even though it's not the best time of year. I was hoping you could give me some advice on the best way to go about this. He wants to transfer some rhododendrons, some hardy fuchsias, carpet rose, blueberries, and a few others. Any help would be very much appreciated. So how can we help James?
Well, James, you have the perfect timing because
Great.
This is exactly when you want to transplant this.
Oh, good news.
And yep, the only thing you don't want to do is do it during a freeze or right before a big freeze. So, get that 12-day weather report, and or even just a week weather report. And as soon as the nighttime temperatures aren't going to be down, into anywhere near freezing. So, if they're in the 40s, don't worry. And then I just say the best time to transplant any plant is early in the morning. So get out there, and eat your Brussels sprout casserole for breakfast so you're in good shape. And a couple things when you transplant a plant. Rhododendrons, they have kind of a pancake root system. It's sort of like a bird's nest underground. So go to the drip line and dig around it, and if you have to cut some roots, and there are some that'll go off if they're old rhodies, then cut those clean with a pair of pruners. Never leave damaged roots on a plant. Always cut them back beyond where you damaged them. And then basically I'd say just, have your pickup truck ready to go. You don't even have to put burlap around the roots or anything. Just get them over to where you're going to plant them. If you can plant them in your new spot right away, just plant them the same day. You don't want them sitting out, cover the roots with soil or something if they got to stay out. But and if you can't get them planted right away, then pot them up. Just stick them in a pot, and as soon as you get a chance, go ahead and plant them. That's the way to go.
Well, that's good news for James because I can, my heart goes out to him. Those plants mean a lot to him because he spent a lot of time with his grandmother. Good news for James. On a recommendation.
What I always think, the thing I love is the fact that plants kind of have that quality. They remind us of the people we love, and so it's so nice to have something your mom grew from her. It's a really special thing.
Yeah, it's a link to the people that you've lost.
Yeah.
This is from John. On a recommendation from you, boy, the pressure's on, I bought a tiger jaw aloe several years ago.
Yeah.
It has done spectacularly and now about a foot tall and needs to be staked. Can I cut the top half off this guy and just plant it in soil or root it in water?
Well, okay, so these tiger jaw aloes are really neat-looking plants. They call them tiger jaw because along the edge of each little leaf, you got all these little sharp bumps that look just like tiger teeth or shark teeth. So it's really a cool plant. And so I think I would wait till spring to do this, no matter what. But I think he can cut the top off because they grow real upright. And so sometimes, especially if you accidentally overwater them, they kind of bend over, and then they don't look so cool. And cutting the top off probably will make it branch out, and it'll get lots of new little ones coming off the base. You could transplant those if you want, but the main thing is then it won't be so tall and tippy. And but can you replant the top of that aloe in another pot? Well, most cactus you could do this real easy. You just take the cactus and you let it sit there for about a week until at the base you see kind of a little film grow across there. And you have to let it dry out or they'll rot before you repot them in good potting, in good cactus soil that you can buy. And you have to keep it moist for about a month, and then you start lightening up on the water, and once you see that it's rooting real well. Aloe are really hard to do that too, because they hold more water than most cacti do. So these succulents are tricky. So I try it. There's no harm in trying it, but you may have to watch it real careful. And the minute you see that film on there, then go ahead and give it a try and stick it in some good cactus soil. You know, plant about the bottom half inch under the soil. Keep your fingers crossed, and hey, it might root. You never know.
Okay. Well, as a reminder, let me see, it's 17 minutes to 10 right now, and if you would like to send in your input on what Ciscoe Stumper Question, which is typically a good bug, one that moves fast or one that moves slow, call 360-681-0000 or office at KSQMFM.com. Let's do one more question before I do the weather. Terry wants to know, what is the best time of year to prune blueberries?
Right now is a great time to prune blueberries. Any time in winter when they're not growing. And so if, you know, blueberries, people are surprised to learn they live 100 years quite often.
100 years?
Yeah, they live forever. And so if you've got an old blueberry that you've had a long time, they get really crowded. And the other problem is they have old branches that are not very productive anymore.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is kind of look in there and see the ones that have the really rugged bark. You know, you could tell they're older.
Yeah.
And, you know, just they aren't looking as good. And cut those down to about an inch from the ground. And they'll put out nice new growth. And so you can thin out, you know, a third of those old ones, and that'll promote lots of nice, new, really productive canes to grow up in there. And if you have to, you can lower the height a little bit too. And if it's way too crowded, you can, you know, cut off some of the branches that are growing across from some of the ones that are growing up and thin it out a little bit. But don't overdo it, no more than a third. And I would say that, you know, I don't do it until my blueberries have gotten pretty full and big before I start doing that kind of pruning.
Okay. All right. And for the...
I have a little comment.
Sure.
And that is just, I forgot to tell that person that's transplanting all their plants.
Oh, that's James.
James, have some water available. You want to water those plants in when you plant them.
Yeah.
So unless it's pouring rain, you probably don't need to, but you don't want to do it when it's raining because you wreck the soil. So try and find a dry period. But then pour water on top, because that if you don't do that, you get little air pockets around the roots. And the roots, if they go through an air pocket, it can kill them. So by pouring water on top of the area, that's settles all those air pockets and fills them in, and you won't have that problem.
Good suggestion to give James. Well, I hope that I want James to keep us posted on once he because we're going to be on the air for who knows, years and years, right, Ciscoe? So I want James to keep us posted. I want James to keep us posted come springtime how his plants from his grandmother's house are doing and how the flowers are blooming. All right, so Gretchen has 2 large rosemary plants that serve as a free-form hedge. She enjoys them, and so do the hummingbirds. She's pruned them lightly in the past, but last year she didn't get around to it, and they're kind of taken over. I would like to know what is the best time for pruning, and how much can I prune off without damaging the plants? So what advice can we give Gretchen?
Well, Gretchen, I think if it were me, I'd wait till spring when new growth is starting to prune those rosemaries, just to be safe. You could probably prune them lightly now, but if you want to whack away at them, most of the time with rosemary, you know, if you read a book, it says don't take off more than a third. So you could take a third of the branches down far, and then next year you could take another third down, and then another third down, 2/3 each time. Or what you can do, if you want to, you could cut them back pretty hard in spring. I've done this many a time. As long as they're happy and healthy, they come right back. So you could probably cut the whole shebang down 2/3. It could kill them, I admit it. But not likely to, and I think they come back really well. So rosemaries, you can prune them pretty darn good without doing them much harm. So if you want to play it safe, no more than a third. If you want to take the risk and get it done quick, maybe 2/3 of the way down.
Okay, so that'll help Gretchen with her rosemary plants. Okay, Donna, she sent in a question. I saw some beautiful spike mosses for sale at a nursery. The tag didn't give much information. From their mossy appearance, I assume they require a moist location. What other advice can you give me as far as keeping these plants going? Beautiful spike mosses.
I love spike mosses. I think they're so pretty. They are mosses, I believe. They're called Selaginellas. And the interesting thing, they're quite closely related to ferns. So and there's tons of different kinds from all over the world, and some live in really dry, hot areas, but most of them come from moist areas. So since there isn't a good tag with these, my guess is that I would grow these club mosses in a shady, bright, shady spot, and I would make sure that the soil never dries out completely. Some club mosses actually dry up and just disappear, and when it rains, they come boop right back.
Okay.
So
I don't understand.
yeah,
You said bright and shady. How can something be bright and shady at the same time?
Well, there's different degrees of shade.
Okay.
So, you know, if like, for instance, if you planted these spike mosses under your conifers, I don't think you'd ever see them again unless you watered them every day. And it's partly because it's so dark, but also because the conifers are getting every bit of moisture. But so if you've got them out on the edge of the forest where the sun is going to hit them directly, but it's in a brighter spot than way back in the forest, then your chances are probably a little better.
Okay. I figure
that was a great question.
If I don't understand, there's probably someone else out there that doesn't understand either.
I'm so glad you asked me that, because I bet a lot of people are thinking of what you're talking
It's
about.
like, how can you be bright and shady at the same time? That makes no sense at all. But hopefully that'll help Donna. Now, let me see. We have Roger from Kirkland. He says, I have powdery mildew on a recently rooted transplant of a rhododendron. There is a gray powdery substance covering the leaves. I really don't want to lose this plant. It's a rare Oh boy, this is another memory plant. It's a rare
Uh-oh.
fragrant variety from my grandmother's yard, and his grandmother is no longer there. So, do you have a favorite remedy? So, we need to keep these memories alive. You helped James with his grandmother's house, and now Roger has a rhododendron from his grandmother's house.
Okay, with a rhododendron, Roger, you can't use what I normally recommend people use, which is, I'm just going to tell us so other people know. So let's say your rose out in your garden got powdery mildew. You can make your own powdery mildew control. Powdery mildew is a fungus that lives on the outside of the plant. It's the only fungus I know that actually lives outside the plant, so it covers the leaf, and the actual fungus is on the outside of the leaf, but it sends little feeders in that attack the cells and suck nutrients and water out of the cells. So it doesn't kill plants generally, but it can maim them and make them not make good food and all that. So normally for your rose, let's say, and we did this at Seattle U for years, we'd make our own powdery mildew control, and what we used was 2 teaspoons of baking soda in a quart of water and about 4 drops of dish detergent. Shake that up good, spray it on, and I found that we had to spray it about every 2 weeks on roses that just always got powdery mildew, and it would totally control it. But you want to do it before the plant's really covered, which it sounds like Roger's might be, So I think the key thing is, in this case, you don't want to use that, and the reason is because it's probably kind of alkaline, and rhododendrons need acid soil. And in a little pot that he's got it in, that sounds, pretty serious to me if, he sprays too much alkaline on there. So what I would use is Rose Defense or neem oil that you could buy at the nursery. And so you can go to the nursery, buy, and what it is, it's vegetable oil squeezed out of the fruit of a tree from India. They've been using it for thousands of years to fight fungus and kill aphids and do different things. So you could spray that on there. Now here's the problem. If that leaf has it really thick, it's going to be difficult because once it gets really bad, it's hard. But go ahead and try it. You're probably going to want to do it as often as it allows you to on the label. So when you read the directions on the label, it'll probably say you could do this once every week, something like that. So give it a try. Normally, plants get powdery mildew when they are under stress. So it could be that you're not, maybe that little start that you've got off the rhododendron isn't getting enough water, or it's getting too much water. Something's a little wrong that's contributing to this. But just see if you can keep it going until you can plant it out in the garden. And once you do that, I think if you put it in a spot with bright shade and in good soil, that might solve the problem of your rhododendron. Rhododendrons typically like a lot of water, so watch that.
Okay. Well, hopefully Roger will keep us posted. Roger, if hopefully you're listening, and I want you to call in or send us a message and tell us how your rhododendron does from your grandmother's yard. Okay, Sarah, she has primroses that need to be divided. The problem is that they keep blooming. They're still blooming in January. When can I divide them?
Well, Sarah, you've got a green thumb.
Yeah.
Because you don't see many primroses blooming this time of year. So whatever you're doing it good. But for sure, you want to divide them. So the problem is, I think they're going to, if they aren't stopping blooming now, I think they're going to keep blooming right into spring. They should stop any time now. But even if they don't, you can divide them. So what I would do is dig. Now, that means they're probably going to quit blooming for a while, but that's the way it goes. So dig them up. You'll see where there are little offshoots coming off the main little primroses, and just with your hand pull those gently off from the mother plant and replant those. And now it may mean that they'll stop blooming, but maybe they'll start again in early spring. All you can do is hope for the best. Make sure that in spring, I'd say in March, go ahead and put some organic flower food around them. Work it in the soil around them. And I think you'll be off and blooming again with those primroses.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing that they're blooming here in January. Yeah.
She must live down by the water or somewhere.
Yeah, it doesn't say. Who knows? With listeners all over Ciscoe, who knows where she? That's why it's so interesting, because the guy with the powdery mildew, he's from Kirkland. It says here, Roger from Kirkland. So yeah, it's just so much fun to see all these messages from different people. Well, right now it's 1 minute to 10. So to comply with FCC rules, let's do a station ID for all of you that are tuned in. You're tuned into the Gardening with Ciscoe show, and I'm Sassy Susan. And so let's do this.
You're tuned to KSQM 91.5 SQM.
Okay, so now we've taken care of that. That is the voice of our founder. He had the vision to create what we enjoy today. Now, Nancy from SQM, she wants to know, what is the best way to raise carnations in the SQM area? I would think that would be kind of challenging, but what does the expert say?
Well, carnations aren't too hard to grow, but there's a lot of different kinds. So those are annuals, and what I love about them, they're so fragrant. So I think in a good sunny spot with really rich soil that you keep moist, and also not too moist. Actually, I'll take that part back. Don't overwater them, because they hate that. But make sure that they don't dry out. And then I would definitely add a fair amount of organic flower food to the soil. Now, a lot of people grow carnations in pots, and there are some incredible looking carnations. There's big carnation clubs and where they grow these really bizarre looking cool ones. So I think the main thing is that they need sun, and they're not going to, they usually die at the end of the year, and that's just the way it goes. But don't forget that there's dianthus too, and dianthus are perennial carnations, and those you can grow outside year-round, and they like the hottest, driest spot you got in your garden. You hardly even have to water them. And they're fragrant as can be. That one thing is you got to deadhead them. Same with carnations. You got to keep deadheading them so that they keep producing new flowers. They'll stop if you let them go to seed.
Okay, well, hopefully that'll help her. Maybe we'll see a sign on the side of the road from when Nancy does raises all of her carnations. You know, you never know. We have all kinds of. No, go on.
I think sometimes people take some of these really cool carnations and propagate them either from seed, or, if you get really good at that, or you might be able to take cuttings. I'm not positive on that, but I assume you could probably take cuttings and propagate those. So she might be selling them by the side of the road.
Who knows? Who knows? Well, right now it's 2 minutes past 10, and I'm going to give everyone a chance to let us know about their vote for their input, I should say, for the Ciscoe Stumper question of the day. Which is typically a good bug? One that moves fast, or one that moves slow? And we've had a few input. We haven't had many people call in. Someone said fast bugs because they're fast, and someone said slow bugs are fast bugs are better than slow bugs because slugs are slow and I hate slugs. So if you would like your input before Ciscoe gives us the answer, we have a couple of more questions. You call 360-681-0000 or send an email to office@ksqmfm.com. Well, I have another question that was called in by Richard. So let's hear what this question is.
Well, question number 2 to you, Ciscoe. I'm Richard D. Bussman. We would like to plant a climbing rose that has no thorns, a thornless climbing rose. Can you recommend one that would grow well right here in Sequim? Thank you, and you have a good day. Bye.
Okay, there's a challenge, a climbing rose that doesn't have thorns. How can we help Richard?
All right. Well, there's a really famous rose that has no thorns, and it's a climbing rose, and I had it in my garden, but it got so big, I finally took it out. But you see them in England everywhere you go, and they have them climb up the side of buildings. And if you had like a red brick house, oh my gosh! So it's the Lady Banks rose. It's a really famous rose. And there's 2 kinds. One has yellow flowers and one has white flowers. The one with yellow flowers has no fragrance, and it doesn't get any disease at all that I ever had. The other one has white flowers, fragrant. It smells like raspberries when it blooms in the spring, like just what a raspberry tastes like. Here's the problem. That this is only a spring bloomer. So it blooms in spring, and then it just sits there for the rest of the year. But there's a couple other good ones. There's one called Pinky. It has soft pink flowers. It does have some thorns, though, but not many. Climbing Iceberg has white flowers, doesn't get much disease, because I only tried to find ones that aren't going to get covered with black spot. And it's fragrant. It's quite nice. But the best one of all, but I got to warn you, I'm not sure about the disease on this one. But I'm going to probably have to spell this. But it's called Zephyrin Bruhan. So it's, this is really a bad one. Z-E, and it's got accent aigu if you took French, which means the accent goes to the right and you say the E like an A. So Zephrine, and then Druhan, Drouhin. And it has deep rose pink flowers for about 4 months during summer. It is so beautiful. Now, does it get disease? I'm not sure, you know. I've had friends that told me, I had that, but I got rid of it because of black spot. I've had other friends that I never got black spot on it. So sometimes there's roses out there that come from different places, and maybe some have changed a little, and they're now, you know, resistant to disease, where if you buy one from another place, they've got it from a different line of the same rose that tends to get disease or something. So I would try that Zephyrin Dufin if it were me. But what I would do would be I'd be prepared to rip it out if it just got disease all the time, because you don't want to be having to spray.
Yeah.
Spray, you know.
Yeah.
So, but those are all ones, and Zephyrin, that one, I don't think it has any thorns at all. Not a one.
Okay. Well, hopefully that'll give Richard some guidance.
Yeah, I don't like that one. Fragrant.
Oh.
Fragrant. So fragrant, scientifically proved No one can smell a flower without their socks rolling up and down. Scientifically proved. So.
Okay, well, now Joyce called in a little while ago with a question. She lives here in Carlsberg, and she has scab on her potatoes. What suggestions do you have for her?
Well, the good news is you can eat the potatoes. It looks, if you've ever seen apples with scab on them, that's called apple scab, and they get these little scabby-looking bumps. It looks like that on a potato, and you get little black spots under them that go into the potato a little. So you'd want to peel the potatoes real well, and then you can eat them. There's no problem. But it's a real pain in the kazutski to get this. So especially if you like to eat, I like to eat the peels of potatoes.
Oh, yeah, that's where all the fiber is. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're so good, too. So what I recommend is what you're going to have to do is add lime.
Oh,
So
okay.
if the soil gets too acid, then we tend to get these problems with the scab. So what you might want to do is get a soil test done. So you could have a soil test done. You do it yourself, but you go on the web and look up soil tests, and you can find one that sounds good, the price you like, and they'll send you a little kit, and you dig out the soil and put it in, send it back to them, and you write on the form you're fighting potato scab.
Yeah.
And they'll see how alkaline your soil is and tell you how much to add. And I think that most of the time that's all it takes to solve the problem.
Yeah, and also since she lives here locally, I think that I don't know if they're doing it now with COVID, but normally the master gardeners are at the county courthouse, and you can bring in soil or branches or leaves or something, and they can evaluate it. But with COVID, I don't think they're doing that right now. Now that I think about it, so she'd have to mail it in to find out. But you said lime will help with that?
Yeah, lime almost always solves that problem. You don't want to overdo it because potatoes like acid soil.
Yeah.
So it's that's why I suggest you could just risk it and try putting a bunch of lime in. And potatoes are pretty easy to grow. I mean, they'll grow in just about anything. But if you overdid it, they might not do well, and then you're not going to get your good potatoes. So a soil test will really nail it down.
Okay, well, this one last question. Someone sent in a picture that you can see. Paula from Lake Havasu said, can you identify this plant? Now, before you give an answer, Jeff looked at this picture, and he said it's a lavender, and I say, no, it's a thistle. So we don't have any bet going on this, but what do you think this is from Paula?
Well, you're both wrong.
Well, that's okay.
But guess what? Sassy, your guess is what most people guess this plant is. So I'll describe it the best I can. It's got a blue flower, and it's got really sharp petals. So it really does look, it's got these sharp petals that go out kind of to the side, and it really does look just like a thistle, like a big thistle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this plant is called sea holly or eryngium, and sea hollies, they call them sea hollies because they grow right along the coast. Like I found them above the World War II beaches in France, and they grow right along there because they can take salt spray. So sea hollies or eryngiums, and that one that she sent a picture of is called sapphire blue. So everyone, I don't have a picture on my website. It'll be a plant of the week at some point. I love this plant so much. Everyone look up sapphire blue sea holly on your computer so you get a picture of this. It's spectacular, and the bees love this plant for the pollen.
Oh.
They just go nuts for it. Oh, yeah, they're always on it. And everybody that sees it thinks it's a thistle because it's got those super sharp, really stiff petals and they dry real nice too. And if you back into one of those when you're weeding, you will be upright faster than you've ever thought it was possible to get. Oh my gosh, does that hurt? But they're a really wonderful, easy to grow perennial that could take the cold. They're just really a great plant. And believe it or not, it's in the carrot family.
Really?
You'd never think so. You'd never think so.
I wouldn't want to eat this.
Oh, no, I wouldn't eat I don't want to eat one, and I don't want to back into one like I did once. Oh, my
Yeah,
gosh, it got my attention.
I just pulled it up, and there are some really good pictures. If you, as you said, if you type in sapphire blue sea holly, you can see a picture of, there are several different pictures, but yeah, it's interesting. Well, so...
Full sun, and good perennial garden soil, and don't get them wet when you water them, or they get a fungus. So only wet the ground around them. That's the key with those.
All right. All these helpful hints for people that are going to go to their website and they're going to go, oh, they are beautiful. Well, that completes our questions. We got through all of them this week. You know, we had, how many, 13 or 14? Yeah, plus a couple of recorded. So we're doing really well. Hopefully we've helped all of the listeners out there, but the drum roll, please, because, okay, we want to know the answer to the Ciscoe Stumper question.
Okay, I'm going to keep people in suspense for just another second because I want to make sure people know that on my website every week I put some of the best things for gardeners that are coming up. So like the Northwest Horticulture Society has a great lecture called Life is Too Short for Boring Plants. New, rare, and just plain weird plants. So this is a really good one. There's a growing grocery series that only costs $5 from the Master Gardeners. There's a garden talk coming up from a really close friend of mine named Dan Hinckley, one of the most famous gardeners in the world, about his favorite plant. And I want to let everybody know at the Snohomish Master Gardener Winter Speaking Series, I am going to be speaking there. Let's see, when am I speaking there? I think it's February 5th. So you can look that up. And so there's links for all that stuff on my website. And
okay, and tell everyone what
February 5th, I'll be giving a talk.
Tell everyone what your website is, Ciscoe. You need to tell them.
That's right. Ciscoe.com, CISCOE.
That's right.
And by the way, I was just, I don't know if you caught it, Sassy, but I was just on Evening Magazine.
I did.
The other night.
Yes.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm making 2 new ones Monday, so you'll be seeing me again. But if you ever miss those, everyone, you can go to Ciscoe.com and you can just look at all my videos are all lined up, and we always keep those on there so you can go and see what I did about African violets. So
yeah, and I was doing something on the computer, and my husband came in. He says, "Hey, your buddy Ciscoe was on Evening tonight. You can watch it." So I watched it. I went, we talked about African violets last week and the importance of watering from the bottom and making sure they weren't in the direct light, the direct sun. So yeah, that was a really good episode. I enjoyed that.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so now don't keep us in suspense anymore. I want to know.
All right.
Which is better, fast bugs or... I think it's fast bugs are better, but I don't know.
You're right, and everyone that called in got this right, and that is, yes, fast bugs are generally beneficial bugs because they can catch the slow bugs that are like cattle in the field. So like aphids, they're just sitting out there grazing, and the fast bugs, the fast bugs are like a lion in the jungle. They're out hunting for their prey at night. And one of my favorite ones I call the eek squish bug. And you know how you pick up a log or a rock in the garden and that great big black iridescent beetle comes running out. It's about an inch long. And it runs really fast.
Uh-huh.
Well, I call it the eek squish bug because people see it and they go, eek, squish, and put the size 9 on it. But those bugs are so beneficial. They have bad breath, and it's not from eating garlic or Brussels sprouts. It is from eating slugs.
Ooh.
So it's so exciting to watch. If you see one catch a big fat slug in the middle of the night, it's a big battle. Slime flies everywhere, twice as exciting as anything you see on nature, you know.
Well, Ruth
And
is
so,
going to have to keep an eye open for it because she's the one that sent in a message, and she said that fast bugs are better because she hates slugs. So she'll have to see if
Yeah,
she can
so-
find one of those slugs being eaten. Well, we need to wrap this up, but it has been another wonderful show. For all of you listeners, if you have any questions, you send them to office@ksqmfm.com, and we will talk about them next Saturday because we don't have any questions to flip over. We did them all. And so your question,
Right.
we'll get it in the lineup. And so Ciscoe, you have a wonderful day, and let's do this again next Saturday.
Hey, it's a deal.
Is it a date? Okay, I've got the perfect sending song for you today, Ciscoe.
boy.
It's by Billy Joe Royal, and it's "How Could You Leave Me?" So we're gonna go ahead and start the music, and you give our best to Mary, and we'll talk to you next Saturday.
Okay, see you next
Okay,
Saturday.
bye-bye, Ciscoe.